take your life seriously. All right, welcome back to the Beyond Limits podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about procrastination. Now, I was going to try and start this podcast with a joke about how we have been trying to do this podcast on procrastination for several weeks, but everyone does that and it's boring. So let's just get straight into it. So, what is procrastination?
So procrastination for me, a long word, okay, and I'm very simple. So I would say procrastination for me is just sometimes I get caught in a loop of overthinking things. I get stuck in like, oh, should I do this? Is this a good idea? Is that a good idea? So procrastination to me is being stuck in sort of the middle and finding it hard to pick your yes or no answer or right or left, for example. What is procrastination to you, bro?
So it's, procrastination in its simplest form, for people that are simple like us, is just putting things off, not getting around to doing things, especially things that you should be doing. And I was talking to you about this off air. I kind of got called out a little bit on social media this week by somebody because I'm always trying to put out content that is positive, that is motivational, that causes people to change their perspective and potentially, well, hopefully, take some sort of action to move themselves closer towards their goals and take their life further towards where they want it to be. But we can't always live like that. And this person was saying, I'm not going to go into the complete tirade whatever the word is, the rant that they had at me about how you can't live like that all the time. It's okay to procrastinate, funnily enough. Sometimes it's okay just to get through a day and be at the other end without achieving anything. And I absolutely 100% agree. You can't always be pushing forward and, breaking yourself and striving for goals, ignoring everything else. You can't, but my personal opinion is that most of the time you should be. You should be doing more of the things that take you towards where you want to be, rather than just accepting that it's okay to get through a day. But when you live that way, or you put out social media content that way, the way that I do, it can often create, I think, a false impression. Like, I get people commenting all the time, you don't stop, you're always doing this, you're always doing that. And I do, like you, mate, work hard, right? We're up early, like 5 o'clock, 5:15 every day, hustling all day long, and we work until late, and we do this 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week. But I think sometimes you have to let people know that actually it's okay when things don't go the way that you plan them, and that we all do, even us, procrastinate, and I do. And I think this is a perfect opportunity actually to be very open and honest about procrastination and some of the things that we both procrastinate on.
I think you're right. And it's not only just procrastination there, it's also showing, we go hard, but then we rest as well. We rest and we almost analyze the last little phase of work, what went well there, what didn't go well. I know you've recently had 2 weeks off now, and that's helped you out to have a little bit of time off, rethink stuff and that kind of stuff. So there's times when you can sort of take your foot off the pedal, but that could be taking your foot off the pedal in fitness or in the gym. But then that doesn't mean that you've got to take your foot off everything. Right. You can then plan the okay, I'm going to be sick now for 2 weeks. What am I doing after? Can I get through this other admin side that I need doing or whatever else it is? So I think you're right. You can't always push. You need that time where you can take the foot off the pedal. And if we do portray a picture where we're always pushing, you're not seeing the recovery side of it. So you might see us training early in the morning. You might see us, but you're not seeing us doing the sauna at say 12 o'clock or, I know everyone's not got that ability to do that, or after work, or, I'm trying to be home by like 7, or I'm home by 7 and then everything's off. I'm not training in the evening, or that's my recovery time. Look at it. So I do go hard, but then also that recovery time needs to be in there. And procrastination, I think today's topic, perfect time to sort of do it, is talking about those different times when you need a break and refocusing your energy in different places.
Yeah.
When do you find it most difficult? Can you think of any decisions that we've procrastinated on? Saying that, okay, this podcast is one of the things that we've been talking about for ages,
for
and we're
a long
like,
time.
oh, let's just do it. We'll do it at some time, and we'll do it next week or whatever. We've had this office for quite a long time. We use it for different things, but the main purpose is for the podcast. We got around to it in the end, so we all fall into those traps. But I think we want to just give some tips on how not to. Maybe, or do you want to talk a bit more about it?
We can wrap it up that way at the end. I've got 5 tips on how to overcome or deal with procrastination.
Beautiful.
But I mean, you said just now, I've had 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
Because I have had an infection in my leg, and funnily enough, we're just talking about this. That's because I was pushing too hard. I think I drove 1,500 miles in a week. I was in 4 or maybe 5 different parts of the country. I was speaking. I was training. I competed.
Yeah.
I was at the NEC, yomping all over with one of the companies that I work with, getting my steps in, and it caught up with me, and I got an infection. And when I get these infections, it's not just like a sore on my leg. My temperature went to 40 degrees. I was in bed for 3 days. I was on a 2-week course of antibiotics mixed with paracetamol and ibuprofen, and I hate taking medication like that. But what that 2 weeks did, once after like the first 3 or 4 days, when the fever had calmed down, I'd got a handle on it, I couldn't wear my legs for the rest of that 2-week period. It gave me an opportunity. And it was an opportunity to do all the things that for months and months and months I procrastinated on. And the reason that I had procrastinated on them is just because of life. Like, we both work, we're both dads, we're both husbands, we both train, we both got 1,000,001 different things. We travel, we're both trying to give our time to others to help in the veteran world, in the fitness world, in the martial arts world, whatever it is. And sometimes it becomes overwhelming, and you look at your to-do list and your weekly schedule and you're like, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that next week. And I feel a little bit, as I get older, I'm getting a little bit worse with it. I'm getting better now because I understand the importance of outsourcing things and getting help and support in, which we've both done recently. But that 2-week period gave me a massive opportunity to start the projects or continue with the projects that I've already got going on, to send those emails that I've been holding back on, to follow up with X, Y, and Z that I haven't followed up on. It was just a really nice period, actually, where because I couldn't put my legs on, because I couldn't drive, I was almost forced, and because I was stuck in the house, I had to do it. And like you, I'm just of that nature that I struggle to sit still and do nothing. I have to be doing something. So it was a really good opportunity for me there to gather up and batch together all those tasks and those bits and pieces that I had been procrastinating on. Sometimes for months I've been procrastinating on this, and to do it. Research. I'm not a big fan of researching because I'm so busy from day to day. I'm like, I ain't got time for that. I'll do that later. And you just never end up doing it. But, without giving away too much information, because this is super secret squirrel stuff, I built an AI funnel, which is going to help us with this and social media going forward, which is going to take out hundreds of hours of work, which is the reason why this is the reason I procrastinate on making a lot of content is because I can't be asked for the back end stuff of editing and uploading and searching for hashtags and all that stuff. But now we figured out a way with that 2 weeks off where we don't necessarily have to do all that, which is exciting because it means we can create more content. So initially I thought that 2 weeks was going to be miserable, no training, no working, having to cancel lots of stuff. But actually what it did was it put me in a really good and unique position where I could do the things that I hadn't been doing, which, a week of doing those things has accelerated me in probably 12 months of progress. Yeah. And I don't know how long would have carried on putting them off for had I not been stuck in my house. Probably wouldn't have got round to them for another 4, 5, 6 months if I got round to them at all. So I guess my point being here is that we all procrastinate. It doesn't matter who you look up to on social media, with the books you read, the stuff you see on TV. Everyone goes through this, whether they portray that image or not, and that's okay. But there are ways, if you want to, that you can try to decrease the chances of procrastinating. If that's
I know what you're saying. I think there's a few things else I'd like to unpack before we move on. So we're both the same sort of characters. We care about time more than anything else. Is most valuable to us. And as you said there, we procrastinate on some things that can sometimes that take away our time day to day, whatever that could be. And then, 2 weeks off. 2 weeks off is like, 2 weeks off, not doing anything. But then you're saving time in the future when you work on those issues. Say if it's social media, building social media funnels, for an example, then you can sort of structure the time you save then into more issues. Like that's the only way to sort of build a further base. And you talked about burnout as well there. I've burnt out quite a lot of times for training and just work and busy. I think burnout's it's difficult because I think it's going to sound a bit weird, but I do think it's good for people to understand how far they can push themselves. I think because we're all capable, I believe, more than what we think we are. But you're going to reach that limit. And then when you reach the limit, that's a perfect time to sort of take your foot off the pedal. We might talk about it a bit later on, but I've been doing 6-week blocks recently where I do 6 weeks sort of going hard, and then I'll take a week where I just look back at the old 6 weeks and think about what worked in that 6-week block, and then when I move forward again on the next 6-week block, what am I going to change? And one of the issues I faced just recently is the same burnout, not to the same extent as you, but it was definitely going on being miserable because I'm doing like training early in the morning, training all day, working and being just like, my wife's just like, why are you miserable? And I was like, I don't know, but it's just because I'm burnt out. So I don't know, the burnout is difficult, but I think also taking that time to reflect on it is going to help you not procrastinate and save time. Time is the biggest value, I think, for both of us. Not money, not anything else, because without that time aspect, what do you do? I feel like we both could have probably a lot more success in some areas if we dedicated all our time to that one thing. But we're not going to do that because we've got family, we've got other stuff.
Things to do.
And I think we're always trying to think like 10 years ahead. So not procrastinating now is going to save you time in the future. Yeah. That's the way you got to think about it.
No, I think there are a lot of reasons why people do procrastinate. And for me personally, I can only speak for myself. It's when I look at what I've got to do, if it's not exciting to me, if it's boring, like send this email, research this bit of information, I'm just like, nope, boring, not doing it. And I know we're going to talk about some tips later, but one of the things only recently that I've known this for a while, but procrastinated on it. One of the things that I massively understand the value, and when you're talking about time, is outsourcing things. Yeah. Like literally, that time I was off, I looked at all the things that I do, batched all the things together that I don't enjoy doing, and thought, who can I get to do this for me? Because I'm such a nerd. I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it. But not only does it mean that I'm not procrastinating and that stuff is getting done because it needs to get done, but I'm claiming back loads of my time. Yeah. I'm not wasting my time like begrudgingly sat in front of my laptop searching for things or sending out emails or chasing this, chasing that, doing the things I don't want to do. I could be doing things that are either a lot more productive, a lot more exciting, or a lot more enjoyable if I just took that step, which I've done recently. We talked about this off air, and outsource things. And sometimes, you got to open your wallet when you're outsourcing things. You can't just, call in favors all the time. And, we've opened up the wallet this week. And I'm super excited about where this is all going to go, because it's going to 10x productivity and give us some time back, which we can either invest with our families, in our business, or in our training, and certainly into creating even more content, vlogs, reels, shorts, YouTube videos, more podcasts. And that's, I think, where we both want to be at. So I think pulling the trigger on this whole outsourcing concept is going to be huge, and it's going to massively propel us, I think, both forward.
I think you're right. And yeah, as you said, you've got to sometimes open the wallet, and it is painful to first do that, because especially nowadays when times are hard, you're sort of, money's not the it's not everywhere, should we say. I haven't personally got loads of it, but I do value the time. And also I understand how to look forward to the future and think, right, in 10 years, where am I going to be? Not to worry about if I got a Range Rover or a fucking Rolex now, excuse my language, but in 10 years, have I got the possibility of seeing my family for tea every night?
Mm-hmm.
Have I got the possibility for maybe going on a lunch date midweek with my wife? Yeah, maybe I've got that possibility, but I have to put the work in now. So not procrastinating now is going to help me do that. Would you say it's better to take action straight away, or would you, because there's two thoughts on this, so can I give you my little spin on it?
Go on.
So if we take action straight away, sometimes we might mess up, okay? But then I do feel like you learn from that mistake.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit like you just said, someone called you out on social media earlier on. Like sometimes those guys that call us out, they're pointing a little hole where we think, oh, actually, maybe I am putting out a little bit too much motivational stuff, and I might be portraying the picture of this. But I know, I know you've put on that you've been injured as well, and
Mm-hmm.
you've been resting. So, maybe that will help. And also, Jordan Peterson talks about this, is when you're like, the goals always change, but they only change when you're heading towards that one goal. So for an example, for myself, when I first joined the military, I wanted to be a PTI at first, which is a personal training instructor. Takes the company phys. Okay, did that job for a while and then didn't really like it. But when I first started to that process of thinking about that job, I thought, right, well, in 10, 20 years, I could be doing this job in civil industry. But then on the way to obtain the job, and then my sort of outlook changed. Okay, what do I want to do next? Oh, it might be BJJ or martial arts aspect. And then as I approach that and I get to that one, then maybe my goals shift again to somewhere else. So do you think it's better to, take action straight away, or would you sometimes reserve back and wait?
This is so funny that you've asked me this, because my entire life, I'll pull the trigger as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Take action. And only recently have I started. I think I'm a little bit OCD with like my DMs and my tasks and my emails, and I want stuff bam, 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 out, clear, done. Next one, as quick as I can.
Yeah.
And only recently, within this year, have I started going, you know what? I'm going to read that, take a day or two to digest it before I make a decision. And if people get arsy with me because I'm not back to them quick enough, tough. Sometimes I just need, and I've only just started doing it recently. And I think there are merits in both.
Yeah.
Right? Absolutely. Some stuff you need to be like, boom, job done.
Go.
Even if you cock it up, like you say, there's valuable lessons that you can learn from potentially making the wrong decision or acting too quickly. But I'm actually now, it must be an age thing, right? But now just chilling, slowing down, thinking things over. I'll look at something now and I might be driving around the country and I'll be thinking about it. Like, what's the outcome if I do this, that, the other? Rather than acting too quickly, I'll take my time with things. So there's merits in both, I think. I would say if I was to split into percentages, I'm like 80% bang, 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 20% chill, think about it, and
I
then
suppose
take
it depends
action.
as well on what the thing is. If it's a big life decision, then you're gonna have to take that time. If it's something small, like, do I go to the gym today? Like,
you got to take action on that quick,
you
right?
gotta go, yeah.
But some of the more long-term decisions, if you've got maybe a medium to long-term project, like if you're writing a book, creating a course, sometimes you got to think about that stuff, right? Even stuff like planning a podcast. We didn't plan this.
No.
We pulled the trigger on this morning when we came in. Boom, let's just talk and see what comes out. Some of these, going forward, we will sit down and we'll plan and we'll figure out what the key messages are that we want to get out. And, maybe that'll produce better content, maybe it won't. But, there are merits in both. And I think it's an individual thing, and you'll find your balance and figure out what it is that works for you.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think like having an overall plan for the podcast, procrastination, and then just seeing where it goes.
Yeah.
Like this now, it's going in a bit, different directions, but it's our honest opinion on it. And some of the stuff we might get wrong, we might even say the wrong thing, but we're just giving the way that we approach it. Just thinking about what you said then, I feel like maybe at the start, it's good to do a lot of action. So maybe when if you're 18 or 19, 20, maybe that's the time when you just action. What's working? What doesn't work? Well, this is not right. Whatever. Then maybe as you get older and longer into the game and you get children, or you can just see a bit further and you know yourself more, because I don't think really I knew myself till I was about 30 years old. Then maybe you take some more slower decision making processes in there.
And to check this out, this is gonna blow your minds. I'm just sat here now thinking about this, right? And a lot of the books that I read, seminars I've been to, particularly people like Tony Robbins, their big takeaway from a lot of stuff is, they'll say people will go out there and they'll have an idea of what they want to do, and they'll set their goals and they'll create a plan, but where they fail is take an action, right?
Yeah.
So actually, if you think too much about things and you don't make those decisions quickly, guess what you're doing? Procrastinating.
Yeah.
And then and then you get to, another 10 years down the line and you're thinking, damn, I didn't pull the trigger on that one, I should have. And something actually, I think I'm not really going off on a tangent here, but was quite a valuable insight that I got from a course I went on. Was the one thing I took away from that particular day was that you should never leave the scene of setting a goal without taking at least one action towards its fulfillment.
Nice.
So if me and you sat down here and said we want to start a podcast, before we left this room, maybe I'd write down, right, what's the name of the podcast?
Yeah.
Where are we going to host it? What are we going to talk about?
Or
action.
Because
it's like a ball rolling down a hill, right? Like a rock gathering moss. You've taken that first step, and then you're off. You're good to go. And then maybe later on down the line, you can look at decisions like, do I need to wait a little bit, or do I need to pull the trigger quick on that? So yeah, it's a difficult one. It is a difficult one, and it's different for different people, horses for courses and all that. But I think the main thing here is everybody procrastinates, no matter how they come across on social media or whatever, or in real life, and it's okay. You just have to figure out the techniques and strategies that work for you and do them more. All right, well, we have talked about procrastination for long enough, so let us dive into some tips. So I've taken some notes.
Beautiful. On
tips of ways that I think help and have helped me certainly over the years with overcoming procrastination. And the first tip is to set clear goals and priorities. So start by setting clear goals, defining what it is you want to accomplish, and breaking it down into more manageable tasks, because that helps you keep focused on what it is that needs to get done, and it helps keep you motivated. So do you agree?
Yeah, I think so I think setting that compass, we'll call it, or picking out that goal, or just having somewhere to go is the most important thing. But sometimes it can be daunting. So let's say, okay, I'm sort of 6-7 years into my BJJ journey now. I'm brown belt, but I remember being a white belt. And then I set my goal of being a black belt world champion at white belt, believe it or not, embarrassing to say. But that's dictated the whole process of how I get there. But at white belt, even to see a black belt rolling, you're like, I'm never going to get there. It's too far. How am I going to get there? So then I had to sort of go backwards and then put in, okay, what do I need to do? Well, I know I need to train. How many hours do I need to put in? What's my training schedule going to look like? What do I have to try and achieve to get to that level? I need a good guard. So breaking that down to smaller chunks makes it way more achievable in my own brain. Is, okay, I just need to work on guard this month. I need to work on a submission this month, and not being like, oh, well, I'm trying to make it to a black belt at white belt because, it's too far away. It's too big of a goal, it's but you're breaking it down. It's overwhelming. That's exactly what it is.
And if you're not into BJJ, then maybe the analogy of a marathon is a bit more digestible. So if you're not a runner and you don't enjoy running and you don't run, but you set a goal of running, for example, the London Marathon, you are not going to get up on the first day, lace up your trainers and go knock out 26.6 miles, right? Because it's too overwhelming. Yeah. It's not possible. You're going to break that down hopefully you'll give yourself a long enough training period, which I imagine would be a couple months, and you will progressively build your way towards that, right?
Yeah, and also you wouldn't go out sprinting.
No.
You wouldn't go out like, okay, I'm just going to go for it and sprint like, a mile. Then you're never going to make it to that end goal. So, yeah. I
think what I'm trying to say is that if you had goals of running, say 5 miles a week, right? And you got up on a Monday and you're like, I don't want to do 5 miles today. Get up on a Tuesday, don't want to run 5 miles today. Get up on a Wednesday, I really don't want it. 5 miles is a long way. I don't really want to do that. But if you got up on a Monday and went, I'll do a mile today, done. Tuesday, I'm going to do a mile today, done. Wednesday, I'm going to do a mile. By Friday, guess what? You've hit your 5 mile goal. You broke that down into more manageable. Because running a mile, by the time you start, you're finished.
Yeah.
But 5 miles, it's like I remember back in the day being on a treadmill and used to do cardio, and you get that last 10 minutes and you're like, right, that's 10 1 minute rate, 1 minute sprints. I know that's 4 2.5 minutes. Oh, it's only 2 5 minutes, and you're convincing yourself the whole time that it's easier than it actually is. But you're breaking it down into a your brain can comprehend and process to make that more manageable. So having those goals and breaking them down is, I think it's a very effective way to start taking action and to make these things a lot more manageable.
Definitely. Next one.
All right, number 2, create a structured schedule. So plan your time effectively by creating a schedule or to-do list. Allocate specific time slots for each task. Stick to the schedule as much as possible. This is going to help you stay organized and avoid distractions. Yes, a very practical tip. In theory, spot on, but again, not always that easy to do. I do this a lot. I'm a bit of a stickler for creating plans, scheduling things in my calendar. But, all right, so we're talking about procrastination, right? It will get you to do things. The thing I struggle with is life. Life happens. Maybe 11 o'clock, I've got to go and do something. And, one of the kids is sick and I've got to pick them up at school. Right. That's the reality side of things. However, we're talking about procrastination. This is a very effective way, I find, to overcome that.
I think you're right. Scheduling time for whatever you're trying to achieve is the biggest thing, I think, to do. But sometimes you're not always going to make that time. And I think we talk about it quite a lot. 80-20 is quite a good little number to think of in your mind is, okay, 8% of the time you can hit, and then 20% of the time you can take that time off. And even if you need a break sometimes, just take a day off or do something. If you're getting to the stage where you're going to burn out, then, take that time off. But for stuff you want to achieve, you have to block out time in your calendar to get that achieved, because otherwise it's just not going to happen. Life's too busy for us to think, oh, well, I'll just do it when I've got a bit of time on the weekend or a bit of time at the end of the day. Or you need to put it in there. And I'm guilty of putting stuff in my calendar as well. And I'm thinking, right, I need to stretch at least 3 times a day. And I'm only stretching in the morning and the evening, or sometimes not at all. So, everyone's guilty of not doing that. But at least it's in that calendar that you've set the intention of achieving that. It's one more step in the sort of you not procrastinating. And that's all we're talking about today is how not to procrastinate.
Yeah. And do you know what I found as well, actually? What's quite powerful is, I don't know if I'm making this quote up or if I've heard it before, but if you don't run your day, someone else will run it for you. So if there's nothing scheduled or blocked out in your calendar and then something comes in, you won't say no to it. So if you came to me, if I had something super important from 11 to 12 in my calendar today, and you called me up and went, oh, Mark, 11 to 12, do you want to go and get an ice cream? I'd be like, yeah, all right, let's go get an ice cream. But if I've got something in there, I'd be like, listen, Rick, I'm sorry, I've got to go do this, got to do that. Maybe we'll do that on Saturday or something.
An ice cream, definitely.
Yeah, well, definitely. Ice cream's the one. But yeah, I mean, I'm terrible. I'm rubbish at saying no to people. I'm to the point where I'm constantly angry with myself about it, because I'm, oh yeah, I'll do that, bro. I'll fit that in. Yeah, no worries. But I found that when I do have things scheduled in, I'm like, no. Like people, Mark, do you want to come to this podcast? I can only do 3 to 4. I'm like, sorry, mate, school run, can't do it.
Yeah.
It really helps to maintain a structure and momentum to my day, which in turn stops me procrastinating. I get once they start rolling downhill again, gathering moss, you know, there's no room for niff-naff and crap if it's scheduled in your diary and you've got a structure to your day.
Yeah, nice. So try and schedule it if you can.
Right, now task number 3 was to break things down into smaller steps. What we talked about with tip number 1. So we're going to tip number 4, which is use positive reinforcement. So reward yourself when you do these tasks, these things that are scheduled. Not every time, because I think that'll get it will lose its power. But when you have these things scheduled in, these tasks that you've got to do, these jobs that need doing, and you're not particularly looking forward to them, first of all, you've got to have the discipline to see them through. And then when you do, reward yourself. Almost like a puppy getting a treat for sitting when it's told. But do you know what I mean? Like, this is the thing that's important as well. Like, not all the stuff that you want to do is going to be exciting. The stuff that you're looking forward to. This is when discipline kicks in. You got to be like, right, it's in the diary, it's scheduled, it's important. I must do this. I've got to do this. And then you knuckle down and you do it. And then to make it that little bit easier, you give yourself a reward. And that reward can be whatever. It could be a dip in the ocean. It could be an ice cream. You can tell I like ice cream.
He's hungry.
It could be a episode of your latest box set on Netflix, whatever it is. It's important that you're not just like a mindless machine powering through task after task after task without getting any enjoyment from it. You've got to get some enjoyment, some reward from this stuff.
I think you're right. And also, I don't think that you'll get there if you're like that, because it's so long. These goals, say you set up at the school run, you obviously set yourself a goal that you're going to try and do as many school runs as you can. But that, you know, you're talking the kids in school for like 10, 15 years. It's like, so that's such a long goal. It's a bit like if I'm trying to get fit for, say, a 100-mile race or whatever. I can't expect me to just train every day and not have some kind of reward in there, some kind of break, because otherwise my mentality is going to, the effort you put into that task after a while is going to get less and less and less. You might still show up and do a run, but are you doing your interval training? Are you doing your long distance run? Are you doing your zone 2? Are you stretching? So you need those little, I call them pit stops or breaks, a little pit stop where you can just have a little rest, recover. You know, it could be simple things, as you said, like a takeaway on a Friday night.
Yeah.
It could be something like that. It could be pancakes on a Saturday morning because you ate really good all week. Stuff like that. You've got to find out yourself, I feel, what your treat is, because it'll be different for every person. That's
what I was just about to say. Like, what I might deem a reward, someone might look at and be like, that's not a reward, that's a punishment. Like, I might jump in a 5-degree ice bath because I'm looking forward to it, and other people are like, are you mental? Like, that's not a reward. Well, to me it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's it's an individual thing.
Yeah.
It's got to be individual to you, something that you look forward to.
Yeah. And I think if you can put them in weekly rewards, and then like if you, let's just say, okay, I keep going back to it because the goal that I've set is a black belt world champion. But in between that, I need to get through white, blue, and all these different belts I need to get through. Apologies if you don't do BJJ. You should do it, I will say that, but apologies if you don't.
You will do it.
But in between that, okay, I've got to train on a weekly basis. Okay, so I need to have a break on a Friday. Maybe I whack in a break on a Wednesday as well because my training is quite intense. I mean, in the evening. So I have the evening off on a Wednesday. I have the evening off on a Friday. And then in between that, let's just say that I win a European title at white belt. Then I don't always do it, but then I should take a good break off and then reassess and then go again. I'm trying to get, same as you, I think, trying to get better as I do get older, is taking that time once I've achieved a certain goal, is then to sort of take a break and treat myself, go on holiday or do something where it's like, that's a reward. Because it's so long. Some of these goals that we're chasing is not, some of them are a lifetime. You know, if you want to be even disciplined, if you want to be disciplined and trained, that's a lifetime goal. It's not like it's never going to get fixed overnight, and it's not something that you can do for a year then never do again. You've got to do it for a long time. So having those little breaks in, really important.
Roger.
Any more on that list?
Number 5, this is the last one. Eliminate distractions. Now, this is super important because I don't think there are, in any time in history, I don't think there's ever been any more distractions than there are today.
No.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Netflix, Amazon, podcasts, it's, reality TV. I mean, that I think you're old enough to remember when there were 4 TV channels, same as me.
Yeah.
There's like 4,000 now.
Crazy.
There's always a distraction somewhere. So you've got to figure out how to manage those distractions. And for me, like the thing that makes the biggest difference in my life is airplane mode on my phone.
Nice.
Like if I've got a million things to do or I'm getting bombarded with emails and DM, I'll hit airplane mode. And I will, because you can still reply to the emails and DMs with it in airplane mode, but they won't send until you get back on Wi-Fi or 4G, right? And I find it very difficult when I'm in the middle of maybe composing an email, another one comes in, and another one comes in, and another one, and it just knocks me off track. It takes me a long time to get back focused and concentrating. So I'll hit airplane mode. I will go through my to-do list, go through my emails, my DMs, everything I need to do. And then in one go, turn it back on, hook up to Wi-Fi, and all of it goes out in one go. And that's how I eliminate distractions on my mobile, on my phone, when I'm trying to achieve things. And I struggle to work in the house too because there's too many distractions. So I'll get out like we are now, and I'll get away from all those distractions. I'll manage my time on my phone, and I'll focus on the task at hand, the to-do list, what's in the calendar and the schedule for the day. And again, it's not super easy, but that's when the discipline comes in.
Yeah, I think you're right. Go over that last point again. Sorry, you went over not the discipline, the bit before.
Just about how many distractions there are.
Distractions. Oh, yeah, the phone I think is the biggest one for me. So I think doing these podcasts as well as I'm always learning. That's why I love this podcast. That's something that I need to put in my life, because the phone is where Instagram is where, YouTube is, where the podcasts are, is where all that distraction can be. And I find if you're tired, if you're pushing hard, that's the easiest time to get distracted. So I think airplane mode is a great shout. And
airplane mode's a game changer, man.
I'm going to get that in there. It's probably my biggest weakness is not eliminating enough distractions. We talked about it off air earlier on. We found some of the biggest jumps in my personal life and gains have been from times when I can take a break from everything and step back and sort of look at the bigger picture with no distractions.
Mm-hmm.
Then I feel like you can assess things a lot easier. So the phone, I suppose you could put the phone in airplane mode. And if you wanted to watch something that you wanted to watch that would recover you, if it was the latest film that come out, and that's way better than just scrolling for hours.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah. And that's like, somebody said to me the other day is sometimes, I'll spend, say, half an hour scrolling or whatever. And they said, can you remember what you just seen? Name one thing that you just... I'm like thinking, actually, I probably cannot remember one thing that I've just looked at for that half an hour. So I'm like, that is dead time. It's absolutely dead time where I'm achieving absolutely nothing. I'm way better just either going to bed if I'm absolutely burnt out than doing that. So I think eliminating distractions, for me, that's probably the biggest one on there. If you could do that, I feel like you would level up in all areas. If you could just get yourself away. And it'll be interesting to see if this stuff pays off, because you should see some changes. I don't know.
And I reckon we'll finish here, and this might be a prelude to the next podcast, but we talked a little bit about outsourcing things that you don't enjoy doing, that you might procrastinate on, which can lead to frustration, etc. Things like, this is where I want my life to be. This is where it's leading to. We've made some big changes this week. We've got some exciting meetings today, but I want to turn up in the morning, right, and go and train, right, for an hour. For that hour, I can't have my phone, right, because I'm getting choked or I'm getting my arm hyperextended or whatever it is, right. But during that hour, stuff is still getting done because I've outsourced it to people, right, who are getting paid to do these things to help me get closer to my goals. So this is, to me, the ultimate winning formula, right? So while I'm doing the things that I enjoy, stuff is still getting done. I'm not on my phone and distracted because I have to be present in the moment in what I'm doing, whether it's open water swimming, running, jiu-jitsu, lifting, whatever it is. You have to be present in that moment. So you don't have the phone, but the stuff's getting, I say I get goosebumps. I'm a complete nerd. But sometimes, you know what my life gets like with work and everything.
Yeah,
I've just
busy.
been away. Like if I can get up in the morning, train, get in my car, drive to wherever I need to drive, like London, Birmingham, wherever I'm working, go out there, knock out a talk, do some sort of event, whatever it is I'm doing, get back to my hotel at night and know that the whole time I've been doing that, the things that I need to do, the things that I want to do, in the background, my social media's been getting handled, my to-do list has been getting handled, you know, I've sent the right emails out the night before, and this, that, and the other, on this, that, and the other project is getting handled. It's like the old, when you 10x your time and 1,000 things are getting done and you're not stressed out about it, you're not pulling your hair out, you're not overwhelmed, you're not like getting angry, and then ironically procrastinating and going, forget all this stuff, I'm just going to do nothing.
Yeah.
It's all getting done. It's taken me a long time to get to this point, but like I said, we've got some exciting meetings today, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Yeah,
it's going to change the game. You're going to see and hear
more
from us a lot more
of us
when this gets implemented, and I for one cannot wait.
It's going to be awesome. As you can see as well, the set has changed as well. New lighting come in. But thanks for John for helping us out with the lights.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, so we're trying to we're not procrastinating, but it's not perfect. So as you see, it will change. I've said to Mark many times, maybe we should just re-record all the podcasts when it's the whole studio's finished. He's like, nope, we're not doing it. We're getting them out there straight away. So he helps me, and we're trying to help him. But you got to find those people out there as well. They're out there to help each other. We're just passing on some tips. I hope that was helpful.
Dude, just one last thing.
Yeah,
I think that's the perfect way to end this podcast, because I'm very guilty of this, and I'm sure a lot of people are. One of the reasons that I procrastinate on things is exactly what you just said, because the starting conditions aren't perfect.
True.
This podcast studio was not set up perfect. We didn't record perfect, but we started. So again, I don't know who said this. I've heard this before. Start now, get perfect later. Don't procrastinate on making sure that all your ducks in a row and everything's gleaming and perfect. Just take action, figure it out, test and adjust, refine it and tweak it as you go, but get started.
Love it. Good end.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Cheers, guys. Bye.